Hello! Welcome to Scribe and Scribble. I'm Courtney.
I'm Christopher.
We're the Burn Bombs, or Scribe and Scribble. And we are so glad you're joining us today to talk about Jane Austen. I'm a little worried that this isn't going live, so I'm going to roll our intro video and then check on this, to check in with you guys. Not really sure if it's working. Do you think we should just check on another computer?
Oh, maybe. Well, let me check on my phone.
Live. Let's see if we are currently live. We are! Okay. Good. I hope it is working as we set it up, but it is a little hard to know.
Well, do you want to tell people why we're here?
Okay, yes. So while Christopher runs to see if this is working on his phone, he's going to have to leave, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and what we're talking about today, which is filmmaking and or television, which is my secret favorite. So I am a screenwriter and an avid reader who first learned about Jane Austen from one of my best friends who had me watch the Pride and Prejudice 2005. And I was like, we're on a bus and I can't hear anything and this is really weird, but the film looks beautiful. So when I got to college and needed some things to read over the summer, I had gotten Pride and Prejudice. Then in my English class, they had me read Persuasion, and really helps to have someone explain what's going on when you're first getting into Jane Austen. Or in the case of Sense and Sensibility, I really couldn't grasp what was going on until I watched the movie. Because then I could kind of, well, first of all, remember who on earth Margaret was, because I was very lost on that. But also kind of see a filmmaker's interpretation, and the screenwriters, Emma Thompson being in Sense and Sensibility, really brought some things to that. But most importantly, that helping to visualize what's in the book, and the way that the screenwriter writes and then the director interprets and the cinematographer works on that to add in beauty to the way they're filming it, really helps you see what they want you to see. And so it also brings out different themes as you watch different adaptations. So when I finished up college, I ended up going to grad school to become a screenwriter. And that's when I started my project to adapt Northanger Abbey to a family children's animated comedy. So that's still a work in progress, but that was what my main project was, my focus was, because I love Catherine, I love the Tilneys. I think that the whole setup is very, very middle school. It really lends itself to a modern interpretation because of what silly problems they get into, and some very serious things. And I think that making Jane Austen fresh for children and entertaining for families all around helps get her ideas across of it's okay to grow up, it's okay to love to read, it's okay to not be too good for things, please be careful who you pick as friends. All of these are messages that are so relevant today, and so I'm not going to talk about my project anymore unless you ask me in Q&A, but I want to talk about filmmaking first. So here is here's the first one we're going to talk about, and that is Northanger.
Mr. Thorpe, perhaps you'd introduce me to the young lady.
This is the Masterpiece Theatre
Miss Morland,
adaptation.
this is General Tilney.
Charming.
And as you can see, that Catherine is being introduced to General Tilney for the first time. and they both are using different techniques as they're introducing the general, Henry Tilney's father, to Catherine. So in the first clip I showed, Catherine has been misled by John Thorpe into skipping out on their walk, like their country walk with the Tilneys, because she's kidnapped of sorts, carried off against her will in a carriage to go see a castle that they don't even get to see. And it's very stressful for Catherine because she hasn't seen the Tilneys since that happened, and she's desperate to renew her friendship and to apologize and to make things right. So while she's doing that, John Thorpe is up to no good again and is whispering in the background to General Tilney, because he loves to brag and is saying that that Catherine is super rich and whoever she marries will be a lucky man. So General Tilney's like, I'm sure he will, and pushes him aside, and then calls Thorpe over to be like, hey, introduce me to your friend. I want to be able to speak to her and to trick her over to my side instead of your side, because we've got to win this big prize of her fortune that she doesn't have.
For my son.
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah, he's not going to marry Catherine, thank God. So the way the film shows this scene compared to the 80s version, that's in their home, and I'll get to that in a minute. They're both book scenes, but they choose to introduce General Tilney in different positions for different reasons. So I'm going to play it again to be able to talk over it. So he comes up,
Mr. Thorpe,
and watch what he's wearing. Dark black. He kind of fills the frame in an odd way. Then he's outside of the frame. He's larger than everyone. Catherine is in between the Thorpe and Tilney situation with the Allens in the back. Now here, at their home, Catherine is being introduced after just running in and embarrassing herself. He's lower in the frame. He's centered. He's wearing red. He's much more polite. He's not sinister looking.
I cannot believe that you have
and the whole
anything to be
scene
sorry
is
for.
so much lighter.
Yes.
Can you, Miss?
The second scene here, the 80s version, accomplishes the same thing that they had set up previously to where I was showing the clip in Northanger, of basically Catherine is just like, no, Mr. Tilney, I pick you over everyone else, but I didn't realize I said that. And one thing Christopher and I were talking about when we were watching this to prepare was how, I believe I used the word endearing, but just how it's very hard to not be moved by Catherine's innocent confession of interest, because she's not trying to be a gold digger. She's not trying, she didn't even mean to say how much she was interested in being friends or more with both Tilneys. She's not throwing Eleanor out. But this scene that they introduced General Tilney in the 80s, they don't even include in the Masterpiece Theater version that was written by Andrew Davies, same as a lot of adaptations. Pride and Prejudice 1995 with Colin Firth, which we will get to as well. So the 80s version chooses to introduce him in a way that we gradually will grow to fear him instead of being frightening from the start.
And that's General Tilney in red, right?
Yes, General Tilney is in the red as opposed to the black. The way they're filming is more...
We're showing the subtext, right, in General Tilney in the with the black.
Yes.
So Catherine's character is this character who has this rich, imaginative inner world that comes from her reading too many horror books that are a little bit, well, they're pretty over the top, I think, in the day, and so immediately they're, I think, trying to use the film medium to introduce the subtext of the character without just, narration or something else telling us what is Catherine thinking. We're going to feel it through the way that she sees. And so the way that we're seeing Captain Tilney is, I mean General Tilney,
Yeah.
is
too many Tilneys.
the way that we're seeing him is the way that Catherine's view of the world is seeing him, I guess, is what you've led me to.
Yes, and the film with the imposing Tilney father is very well. Actually, both films have a lot of daydream sequences, and they really lead into that, and they're adding that into their story. I don't want to talk too terribly much about the 1980s version because it is very weird, and I'll probably do another video about that because I really think it's hilarious. But
that one we were saying kind of feels like somebody making it was on drugs or something. It's so out there.
And there's some very strange choices. So if you haven't seen it, your library probably has it. We have it. We will sell it to you for a lot of money because I'm unwilling to part with it.
We say that it has space music.
It does have space music. So you will hear a little bit of that space music in a later clip as well. But it's a very, very interesting choice. But they do a lot of the storytelling well. And so I wanted to point out that one difference of how they choose a subtler approach that works really well to introduce General Tilney, and he slowly becomes this scary figure. Instead of him being very easy, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip again. He's very easy to picture as one of the men that was hiding behind to jump out at Catherine in her ideas, daydreams, fantasies. Previously and that go on later. She has a very active imagination. This Catherine is also very innocent and endearing and dressed a bit like Bo Peep, but it's okay. She pulls it off. So here comes General Tilney into the frame, and you can see kind of he's still above her. But watch this next clip where General Tilney, in fact, the more recent Northanger adaptation, he's up the stairs. And Catherine is much lower, and he's almost never lower in the frame than him. See, here he is, he's in between everyone, he's at the center, he's imposing, he's breaking his shoulder into the shot. Here, Henry is saying there's haunting, his castle is haunted, and it cuts immediately to General Tilney. Here he is again, scolding Eleanor, and being up on top of the stairs,
there is nothing to interest
and just very much filmed in dark and scary and powerful positions, and they use that framing to use that. So here is where they are saying goodbye to him, and listen to that music difference, and it's bright, it's literally daytime, he's going away. Here he is coming back towards the end of the film, drastically different, so dramatic and angry. He's going up the stairs for the first time, so something has changed. And there's definitely a stair motif in this film in general. Here he is looking up. He looks so small comparatively. We're going to cut back to the scene after he leaves. Look at this this display of the siblings, and here we can see Henry Tilney in green and Catherine in white.
I thought I might show you
I'm
Wisdom
jumping a little
tomorrow,
bit, but I want to go ahead and point out
if
all
you'd
these
like
clips
to.
so I don't have to keep running the clip over and over again.
It's nothing to Northanger, of course,
So
just
General
a
Tilney.
country vicarage, but...
And so they're so much happier. There's a happier music.
I did think there might
cue.
be
It's lighter.
ghosts.
Here,
There weren't any ghosts.
now
really.
Catherine is with her siblings. And
People who read
here's
too
the
many
theme
stories imagine all
of the
sorts
story.
of horrid
Notice
things
she's
about
wearing
ghosts and
green.
murders. And it is very wrong of them to do so, and it can get you into
While
serious
her
trouble.
siblings are wearing the white.
So let me not hear of any of you being
because
so silly.
they're the innocent ones, and she's learned from her experience. So, let's see. To go back, first we're going to finish up the framing. The stairs are definitely a motif, meaning it's something that we see visually, and we're able to connect scenes that have stairs in them. A lot of times in filmmaking, you look for thresholds, like if you're coming into a door, if something's changing, you might see going across a bridge. It's like everyone's favorite moving to a new city trope of, here we are driving into the city over whatever bridge we could find, because it's such a visually important cue, even for people who don't really know, aren't looking for it. It's just kind of, it resets, it moves you forward. And so staircases also work in this way because there weren't nearly as many bridges also. Like, I guess they could, the other Northanger had a moat bridge thing. Let's see, the music is a lot more thoughtful in this adaptation, where you get cues. There's I did not pull a clip of this, but there are some moments where the music really helps to sell the emotional connection between Catherine and Henry. There's some sweet moments with Eleanor and Catherine. It's really the most obvious one is General Tilney leaves and everyone is so happy and the world is happy and Catherine gets to do a lot of fun things. Eleanor is released because I feel so bad for Eleanor, especially with this father. He probably ruins all their family photos by getting really big up in the frame, and Eleanor has to be in the back, way back there, because he's so imposing all the time, even family portraits. But in seriousness, I think this film does a very good job of using what they're trying to tell in a story. So to go back a bit, more generally, not generally Tilney, but each film adaptation or television adaptation or web series adaptation, which I unfortunately won't have time to get to today, has certain parts of the story that they want to tell, and so they approach it with those goals in mind, and a successful adaptation will be able to convey those visually and with dialogue and with plot and casting if they need to. So when we're looking at this particular Northanger, the more modern Northanger, they really wanted to drive home Catherine's growth from innocence and her white outfits and her ridiculous daydreams. She wants to be kidnapped and rescued, but mostly kidnapped. So, and then when she's kidnapped by John Thorpe and taken out of town, she's very upset. When she's thrown out of her house, or not her house, but the abbey by the Tilneys, she's horrified, and but she returns home and is changed, and there's a visual change in what she's wearing. She's now tied in with Henry Tilney because she's wearing green. She's seeing herself as more of a supportive older sibling, like Henry, and it's also just the way the whole coming home scene is filmed. Once she's arrived home, it's no longer scary. It's much more stable. I really like the way they handle Henry's proposal and things. I didn't want to ruin the whole film for people who haven't maybe seen it, but again, I think you knew you were going to get into some spoilers, so I'm sorry.
That one's worth watching, though. I think it is, it takes some liberties in the story and stuff like that, but I think it does a good job of, most of Jane Austen's characters have very rich inner lives that are explained in the narrative of the book. But that's such a challenge of these adaptations, right? Of turning the inner monologue and the omniscient narrator into how do you communicate that visually, and a lot of the choices here, and Catherine's change of colors, every scene that General Tilney's not in seems so much lighter, and even the chase scenes with Thorpe where well, not chase, but like they're on that carriage together and Thorpe has basically accosted Catherine, and
he certainly tricked her. It's
still very light, they're outside and stuff like that. Things aren't so cramped and closed in, but whenever General Tilney's in there, it's very cramped, it's claustrophobic, she feels like she's up against a wall. They're portraying some of that horror, that gothic horror that she loves and that she's a little bit too obsessed with and fantasizes about, and I think flipping that too, because look, Thorpe, she's not technically in a claustrophobic area, it's not dark, but she is being accosted and held against her will, which is so in contrast to the way she fantasizes about it. It's like, when it's real, you don't like it,
Yes, and the film is able to make us feel like, did he murder his wife? He's pretty scary. I don't know what's going on, but it's easier to jump to conclusions with Catherine when we've been visually clued in the whole time. And Jane Austen's writing really is so delightful to reread because you go back and you see what she's layered in, and that's similar to how these adaptations, when done correctly, can really translate that visually to be just helps you be like, it was there all along, and then you realize it was not there all along, and I got caught up in what the protagonist was seeing.
Similar to Emma,
Similar
right?
to Emma, yes.
Where we see so much of the world. I think Jane Austen's really clever, and she doesn't quite let on how much of the world we're seeing through the eyes of the protagonist. And so, you start to believe Catherine's point of view because you don't necessarily know that it's her point of view. And especially with Emma, I think that's very true, right?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I love Emma. I will try to keep spoilers out from the 2020 Emma because I know so many of you probably haven't been able to watch it yet. Since the book has been around for 200 years, the story is not going to. I don't apologize again for the story, but I don't want to show anything in the film that wasn't really in the trailer. So I will be showing a couple of clips, well, one clip, one scene that's very small from Emma 2020, but we're going to look at all 4 Emma adaptations from the 90s and 2000s.
We do recommend the new Emma.
Yes, it's really good, and I would love to chat about that as well, but I would hate to spoil it, and $20 is a lot of money, but...
And we're going to try to leave time at the end for a little bit of Q&A and read some of the live chat, I guess, questions or comments or things like that.
Absolutely, yes.
We
will get to
guys
those
involved as well. So
we are a work in progress here with keeping up with everything, which is why I have Mr. Scribble. I was trying to decide. So Christopher's background, by the way, is storyboard artist, so he helps really kind of lock in on visuals that I might miss for all films. So
I'm learning to appreciate Jane Austen, mostly through her, although my father was very into Jane Austen as well, and I really appreciate story and storytelling, so obviously that's a huge part of what makes Jane Austen so great.
Yes.
So
yes.
Emma.
So I'm gonna roll the Emma footage. This is. I guess I should probably preface.
And that was our little transitional running scene.
That music was the 1980s space music, but I just really love how much how active Jane Austen's characters are shown in the different films. So wanted to share that with you. I was playing around with them for a bit. So, Emma, we're gonna look at the scenes that all the films have of her conversation about Mr. Elton's snub of Harriet with Mr. Knightley, and then they dance. And through these 4 versions of the same scene, and even just clips of that, you can pull out what each filmmaker was trying to say with their version of Emma, and how Mr. Knightley and Emma interact. And you can just get a really good sense of that film from this one scene, and I think they set it up very well in all versions.
Last dance, will you come and set the example for your companions?
This is the Miramax 1996.
Whom are you going to dance with?
You see Emma
With you,
and then Mr. Knightley are very far apart. She even leaves the frame.
You've shown yourself a fine dancer despite all your
forward.
protests. It should not be improper for us to dance. After all, we are not brother and sister.
Brother and sister? No.
We linger with him a bit, and then when we come back to them, they're already holding hands. They're already closer. But it's still this whole film.
sir!
Ginny's
This
mark.
is the 2009
Who will you dance with?
series.
Why you? If you will ask me.
There are a lot of medium shots. They're closer in. Makes it feel like they're talking together, but the background noise reminds
Will
you
you
that
dance,
they're
dear
not. Take the hand.
And I'd even call those at least medium close-ups.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely getting a lot closer than that other one shot.
Thank you
This is the
for your kindness, Harry.
2020 version. We're zooming in, but we're pretty far out because they're
He was
trying to
unpardonably
resolve
rude,
some of the tension.
and he aimed at wounding more than Harriet.
I was completely mistaken in Mr. Elton.
And then it comes
There is a
in
littleness
very
about him which you
close.
discovered and I did not.
And it's a very intimate scene. There's not a lot of
You
lead
would have
room.
chosen for him
Here comes
better
Mr. Knightley turning towards
than he's
us,
chosen
and
for
then
himself.
there's a conversation that I'm cutting. And here comes an interruption.
Set
and
your
it's very-
companions an example. They're all lazy.
Come back out to.
You must dance another set.
I
You
am
lose
ready
some of the
whenever I want.
intimacy. The moment's been
And you really
interrupted.
feel it, right? You really feel
And
that.
that's where the tension begins
whom
to
will you
build,
dance?
and they build it into this dance. And this is one of my favorites.
With you.
Sections of this film, and it's just
If you will ask me.
really shows
You've
what they're
shown that you
trying
can
to
dance,
bring.
and we are not
in this
really
new
so much brother and
adaptation.
sisters to make it improper.
But see, we've got really close. They feel like their faces are nearby, and here they are, skin to skin.
There's a littleness
touching.
about him which you discovered and I did not.
On this
Well, in my
one,
turn,
the
I'll
Kate
admit,
Beckinsale 1996
I underestimated Harriet Smith.
version.
She has some first-rate qualities which
She's
Mrs.
talking to
Elton is
Mr. Knightley,
totally
kind of already near the dance floor.
An unpretending, single-minded,
It
artless
is
girl.
close. It's over the shoulder.
Infinitely to be preferred
We
by any
see
man of
both
sense
of
and
them
taste
in
to such a
each
woman as
shot.
Mrs.
So
Elton.
you get the
Come, Miss
connection.
Woodhouse. Miss Otley, Miss Smith. What are you all doing? Come, Emma, set your
Interruption
companions the
isn't
example.
as tense
Who will you dance
here.
with?
It's more of
If you
just
will ask me.
a catalyst to get them to dance together instead of a
Indeed I
something
will.
was interrupted.
I have
but
seen how well
became
you
something
dance
else.
now. And we're not so much brother and sister as to make it improper.
Brother and sister? No, indeed.
You can see his delivery of not brother and sisters, very different from the other two. And the 2009 version doesn't even have that. So, let's see. I'll just go down in order. When we look at the Miramax version from '96 that we first watched, they're outside, they're alone, but they don't feel alone because they have that window which provides some structure to the frame, but it also shows the party, it gives us the setting. The nice thing about all of these scenes is we can drop you in them and you can figure out what's going on because of the way that it was shot. I would say that both '96 versions are not nearly as intimately shot. They're not as close framing wise throughout the whole. And so if anything is close, there's a scene where Emma and Mr. Knightley are doing archery, and we have a very close shot up on their faces, but individually. And so there's just not the same intimacy as you see in the other films, because it's more looking at Emma. It's showing Emma in a different way than the other adaptations. They're all telling a story faithfully and do a great job of portraying these characters, but they do it in a different way, and it gives the whole story a different feeling. I would say in the 2009 miniseries that they don't even bother to mention brother and sister. They're not trying to play on that dynamic. And I'd seen an interview with the cast of Emma 2020 talking about how they wanted so badly to not lean into the creepiness of a brother-sister relationship, and they wanted to see it much more as just like friends that don't know they're in love with each other. And I think that they accomplished that, even though they did include that line that the 2009 Emma omitted about, no, not brother and sister. But the way that the 96, the first version, Knightley out there by himself, he's talking to himself. He's not admitting that to her in that tone he uses. And I think there's certainly, it gives you an insight to the way they're portraying that Knightley of, he's become aware of his feelings for Emma. He's not ready to tell Emma Emma's not guessing them. It's very setting up the audience to know. I think anything said by a window that isn't to someone particularly is to tell the audience. So moving on to the 2009, back to the 2009 one, I liked the way they set up the ballroom and all of the scenes, but that one feels right in how the inn they're having their ball at is a little bit inconvenient, pun not intended, to have a ball in because of the awkward hallway, and these are things from the book. And so they really bring in the setting as, like, they've pushed themselves a little bit out of the way, but they're still involved. Mr. Knightley is a person who would observe a ball and see what's going on. That's how he was able to tell that Harriet was in distress and was being slighted.
It feels a bit, too, like this is about as intimate as they allow themselves to be with each other, because they never quite get completely on their own. I think their relationship is always part of the bigger society around them. It's always part of Emma's bigger family. I mean, they're both their sister. Emma's sister, Knightley's brother, married each other, so they are family in that sense too. And so it's like they can never quite detach themselves completely and be completely separate, completely intimate. And I think there, that line of, like, we're not actually brother and sister. I think the reason that's in the original story is to show how long of a history they have. They've been friends all their lives. And that, I think, is such a relatable thing, too, of all these romances where it's like the two best friends don't realize they're in love with each other because they've been friends their whole life. And so
right.
I understand why they took it out of the one adaptation, but there's also the fact, too, of, like, there's that depth of relationship there because of the history. So obviously it's, we're not leaning into the creepiness of brother-sister
right,
thing.
Because they're not brother and sister. They're brother-in-law and sister.
And I think the point of this scene, too, in a lot of these, and especially the way the Gwyneth Paltrow one is doing it, is like, of course we're not brother and sister. Like we're not thinking of each other that way, and they're really admitting it to themselves as much as to each other,
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually wondering, and this is not something I have an answer to, but it's very possible from the way Emma reacts to seeing him dance that they've never danced together before. Possibly he hasn't danced. They don't have a lot of balls in Highbury, and it's hard to tell because they love to tease, and all adaptations bring that in pretty well. It's hard to tell if she's just forgotten or she's actually never danced with him, and so it's a big moment here for Emma and Mr. Knightley because they are taking a step forward into something new. And all of the scenes and the way they transition from their talk to the ballroom are very good at.
And is this the first time in the story that they actually do something specifically romantic, where it's like we're specifically pointing towards them becoming a couple at this point?
I would say it's something specifically that they've done together for the first time. Because all the other events that happen are happening with a chaperone, with her father, at a larger party, and so them kind of choosing each other here is significant to the story. Let's see. So the next one we'd shown a clip for was the 2020 version.
Just a note, I'm being told that we're getting a good amount of views. If you like the video, it'll probably get, a bigger generation, get this out there a little bit more.
Yes, please please subscribe. We're going to keep making content, and it's going to be about movies. It's going to be about, well, whatever you would like.
Well, and again, we want to bring you guys into the conversation.
Absolutely.
So if we can get more people, talking together, hopefully that, just keeps this moving forward. So
yes.
But back to, sorry.
Oh, right. So the 2020 version, I've seen some complaints that they're not wearing gloves. They're not practicing good quarantine behavior. touching skin contact, touching each other's clothing, not being 6 feet apart. So I have included a part right here that I'm going to run that I think points out a bit of why the decision was made by the filmmakers, even though it is a little odd for Regency era costumers. These are hands of Jane Austen's couple power couples. So I love Mr. Ferris, and I'm not going to talk about him this time, so that will definitely be a video later. But very quick shots there from the trailer of Emma 2020 that had Mr. Knightley and Emma with no gloves. They do have hands. And also Frank Churchill with the gloves. And so Frank Churchill and Mr. Knightley are set up as Emma's rivals for Emma, although it doesn't work out that way. It feels that way to Mr. Knightley and to the people around them. And
perhaps to the audience, if you're like,
absolutely,
oh no, like, not him. Like, what about, right. Because you've already, hopefully at this point, been rooting for who, well, and like you've told me before, Jane Austen always introduces.
Yes, and so I always watch for this in adaptations. The first male love interest you meet is the one that they end up with. Sorry for like blowing your mind.
Or spoiling it.
So
possibly.
If you meet Colonel Brandon first, it's not going to be Willoughby. Sorry. That's what happens in Sensibility. So when you meet Mr. Knightley and then you meet Frank Churchill, you could be clued in by the proximity and how soon they arrive about who is the person you're supposed to be cheering for.
I like that too, because it's the subtle, revealing her hand in a way. She subtly reveals her hand, and I think that is a good overlap between film and her writing style too. Is that the subtle, note that a filmmaker might make is like a huge impact. It's a big deal, and I think the difference between Darcy and Knightley and Emma not wearing gloves together, and Frank Churchill and Emma wearing gloves together, it seems so subtle, but that's like a thunderstrike, a crack of thunder. It's huge in the film world if you're paying attention to these things, and actually even if you're not paying attention to them, a lot of these things, like you said, going over bridges and things like that, they're very much something we feel,
subtext.
Even if we don't notice it. With other than subconsciously, right? So.
Yes, yeah, and so even in the trailer, when it's like, oh, who's she going to pick? Like, because they creatively use some of the editing to be like, who will you dance with? And it's both men right next to Emma, and that's not the same scene. Even there's no dancing in that scene, but the trailer was very clever to be like, which two men will Emma end up with? And then it shows...
Which of the two men?
Oh, yes.
Which one man?
Perhaps the next adaptation. So, you can see that Emma and Mr. Knightley have that connection, and that there's always something keeping her apart from Frank Churchill. And it's literally gloves, but it's also that there's something under the surface, under his personality that keeps him from being honest with them, and he's concealing things, and he's wearing gloves, but gloves are also just what you're supposed to be wearing. So not everyone wearing gloves in the film is up to no good. Just people not wearing gloves don't have something to hide.
Well, I guess there's a little bit of a hint here too by the film makers. Like they've done their research in the 2020 Emma. Some of them feel a little bit less researched, like the 80s Northanger. But
keep ragging on that guy. Sorry.
We like the film, to be fair, partly because it's got some issues. But the new Emma, it's clear that they've done their research. But they have chosen, because they know that in this society you have to have gloves on. There is no intimacy of that level in public without gloves.
I will say that some adaptations seem to just not have a budget for gloves. they didn't have any gloves.
That's true.
Because it's too expensive to keep them clean.
That's why we're judging it by just this adaptation. They clearly know what they're talking about here. And for Emma and Knightley not to have gloves in that scene is a communication to the people who are aware of the culture and how on par, how accurate the costuming is. It's a signal to them, hey, notice this.
Right, I'm going to play the hands clip again. So there's the same filmmaker choice here in Pride and Prejudice. They didn't have gloves on. They're leaving Netherfield, so like arguably they were going out. But this Emma has gloves. There's no gloves. So is Churchill. No gloves without him. He's not wearing gloves. I think they didn't have a glove budget. But perhaps he took them off.
And of course, that's a very different context to the scene too.
Yeah, there aren't hands. There aren't intimate hand touching in Synthesis ability that I noticed either. So I just wanted to again include that because I love that part.
So just to keep things moving,
so
so we have some time at the end.
And like I said about the last demo, I'm gonna just have to skip over that because we're running out of time. So we make sure we have Q&A time. They set them up where Emma and Mr. Knightley are always in the shot together, and so it creates this feeling of friendship that and connection that is.
Oh, that is something I wanted
there.
to mention too. In that shot in Emma 2020, it's so different from the other Emmas, where you've got the close-ups right on their faces, and there's no. We talk about lead room. If somebody's walking across the frame, or we're panning with them in a shot, you usually leave a few steps in front of them so that you can see where they're going. Otherwise, we don't know what they're gonna. They might run into a wall. They might walk into a manhole, something like that. It kind of like plays on our. We need to see where they're going, and because we put the frame edge right in front of Knightley's face on this side, and or reverse, and Emma's, you specifically notice what's missing in that frame. The absence is even more potent, I think, of here's Knightley, Emma is over there. Here's Emma, Knightley is over there, and it's very like I can feel the emotion of that moment. Like you feel even closer somehow than if they were both in the shot.
Yes.
Like at the end or something like in
yes,
a kissing scene.
It's almost a. It's almost looking at the camera, feeling close, but it's not breaking the fourth wall or anything, which would be weird in that scene especially. But it's just really draws you in, and they do such a good job in this film to build the tension of scenes and drama. So the last clips I have are of Pride and Prejudice, and this is the first ball and how the 2005 film with Keira Knightley and the 1995 miniseries introduce the party. You'll see. I'll try not to talk during this one. You'll see that we see the Bennets first at the party in 2005, and we come in with Darcy and the Bingleys. Otherwise. All right, I see some people saying that there might not be sound in here, so I apologize if that is happening. Let me try to fix that. All right, I see some people saying that there might not be sound in here, so I apologize if that is happening. Okay, let Now I've lost my... Great. Okay. So in this, as it's wrapping up, I think that it's very striking how they choose to introduce the family and the party. It's actually pretty similar. I think that they go through and find all of the Bennett family members and show you what they're up to, but they bookend it in the 95 miniseries because they have so many more hours to do this. Partly, it's also clearly a choice that with Mr. Darcy and the Bingleys entering the party and joining the assembly. They say in that film that it's the assembly rooms. I honestly never questioned even where the ball was. I was just like, yeah, obviously they go to a ball. So in the 2005 version, there's just so much camera movement. In another ball scene, they have... let's see. Oh, yes, I'm just seeing some comments about that it's easier to not have it at the... That's what Christopher told me to do, and I didn't listen to him. So I'll take that into consideration next time and not run the sound as loudly for clips in general. But as the 2005 Keira Knightley film shows any balls, it's such a full experience. They move you around. It's honestly what I'd want to do at a ball. I'd want to walk around and look and see what everyone is doing and then decide what I wanted to do. When you are watching the 1995 miniseries of Pride and Prejudice, they are a lot more focused on the family of the Bennets. And so from the first introduction where Elizabeth sees Bingley and Darcy about to take Netherfield to let it at last, there's a lot of time spent with the Bennets in a different way from the 2005. And again, I should just stop saying it, but miniseries have so much more time. They can spend more time on it, but it's also very clear that they want you to love the Bennets and to feel for Elizabeth and Jane about how weird their family is, but also because they choose to include more scenes on Darcy, they're also really driving home this family's embarrassing. They're kind of ruining the party. And I didn't share that clip because I didn't want to take up all of our time about like just Elizabeth trying to stop her mom, but then still making a snide joke about how he's not that handsome since he's so rude. And you can really feel the family bond in that in a different way. And I think that they do a great job in 2005 to look at the family, but it's shown differently, and where you see a little bit more from Mr. Darcy's perspective because of how they choose to put together the 95 version to bring him in early to the ball. Okay, so I'm a little bit over already, so let's get some questions. We will start at the top, but feel free to add to it as we're going. I saw some people talking about the Emma stage adaptations, and there is going to be a discussion about that through Virtual Jane Fest, so please tune in for that as well. It's not me. I know nothing about it, and I would love to learn, so I'll be tuning into that.
I love the comment that I saw about Mary Bennett coughing into her hands. Was it Mary?
Oh, was it Kitty? Kitty loves to cough, but I think that it's a family trait.
One of them coughing into her hands without gloves on, which is especially upsetting in these times. So, but it's ironic that that's also, one of the sisters is just known for her coughing, right?
All right, so Mary Hill says, have you gotten to read the Emma Thompson Sense and Sensibility screenplay and diaries? Yes, I got it from the library, and I was going to go get it for this talk to have it again, because I thought I'd bought it, and it was Pride and Prejudice, Making it Pride and Prejudice 95, which is also great. And the library is closed, so one day I'll buy it from my bookstore. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody.
This has been great. I've been longing to do this.
Yeah, we really wanted to, do our part to do some film justice to these great adaptations. There are many, many good ones. So.
Hello to beloved author. I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Sonia Kamal. I really loved Unmarriageable, and I'm looking forward to your other one. It's great. Your comment says, in Pakistan, first cousins are not brother and sister either, so this never upset me. Yeah, it's very cultural, and I think that filmmakers sometimes take too much trouble worrying about it when it's like, this is the story. Just, this is the story.
Yeah, I guess that something we didn't talk about about adaptations today is the difficulty of overcoming cultural differences from the time. And I think sometimes the adaptations almost dwell on that too much. And it's like, I think we kind of accept the world that's presented to us often in film form especially, but obviously the book gives you lots of time to really get into that culture as well. So
yeah. Here's a comment. They do play archery together, says Lorraine Davis. When Mr. K asks her Emma not to shoot his dogs. I love how many dogs are in adaptations of Jane Austen. We've got Jennifer's Elizabeth Bennet playing with the dog, and Mr. Darcy's watching her. And we've got Emma taking down Harriet's portrait and putting up a dog portrait. We've got Mansfield Park and Pug.
And the Pug is always credited
yes.
with,
yes,
when we're looking at the actors and actresses.
On Jasna's website, adaptations, the Pug, I believe, was credited as the name. I may be incorrect.
Every
on what
adaptation
it was,
they've done, they've shown the name of the actual Pug who
yes.
played the Pug in, which I thought was funny.
Yes. Yeah, there's
credit where it's due.
It's great. Yes, it's great. No one plays a pug like a pug. Yes, it is more intimate without gloves.
Sorry that there was no sound for these clips. We tested it.
Sorry
and
if there
was
too much sound for the clips as well.
Ooh, yeah.
It's fascinating to see. Oh, so Perdita258 says, I belong to a Regency dancing group in the UK. It's fascinating to see how dancing was so important in courtship. So many of the dance steps bring couples close together to make eye contact and touch. Yes, I'm very envious. It sounds like a great class to take. I took some swing dancing classes in college, and one of the things they said was, stop being frightened to get close to people, because part of the point of dancing is to be close to people in an appropriate way. And so it allows some intimacy, but also some safety because you're doing dance steps that everyone's doing. Yes. I love the hand. And I was wondering if the hand shot from the 2009 Emma was influenced by the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. Someone had to put the hand shot in first. My vote is the 2005.
And you do think that the Pride and Prejudice, I can't remember the year, the one with Keira Knightley, does seem to have a motif of hands.
Yes,
and
there
close-ups of hands.
There is, and a lot close-ups of other things. Director Joe Wright brings in a lot of pretty details. It's a very beautiful film.
Well, and then just in film language, close-ups are, intimate. It's about intimacy, and it's bringing attention to something, but it's also a very simple way to show intimacy. Bring us into, especially, looking at that Emma and the shot, the two of them really close up, separate from each other, we're immediately brought into those characters' heads, I think. And I think we saw that in the Northanger Abbey too with Felicity Jones. You're brought into her perspective through close-ups on her face. And actually both Northangers that we analyzed today do a lot of close-ups on her face to see her reactions, and also that's the world, we're seeing the world through her eyes, and I think the close-ups really pull us into her perspective, even though they don't do any point of view shots, literally from her perspective.
Yeah, they do a really good job of bringing out the innocent expressions of Catherine Morland. Okay, we've got someone that says, may not work for Sanditon to the first person you meet is the one you marry. I have not read Sanditon, and I unfortunately missed the miniseries, which is why I didn't bring it up, because I'm very eager to catch up on it, but have not yet. I just am going to guess that Jane Austen would have fixed it if she had lived to finish Sanditon.
Well, and we still want to look into that one and see the adaptation as well.
Oh yeah,
Love and
everything I've seen clip-wise has been great. Yes, I got to.
Love and Friendship is really good. I don't know if that one's an early first protagonist thing?
It was
Because it's
not.
kind of
It was
flipped.
not published until way after her death, and there've been different versions changing it around. And it's but Lady Susan, of course, Love and Friendship being a different book, but Lady Love and Friendship, the movie, being very fun to watch. Oh, thanks, Nina. Hello. Lorraine Davis says, I don't like things that would never happen in the Regency made into plot details. Amen. But that's me. And like, when I make films, I'll do what I want. And when I'm not making the film, I'll try to see what they're trying to do. But that's a big step for me. That's going to be my character growth into 2020, is accepting adaptations when they're not what I would do. Oh yes, Leah Richmond. When I read Emma first, I was like, Frank is coming into the book at about the same point as Wickham. He might be the bad guy. That's a good insight. Oh yes, I love Persuasion. Wentworth giving Anne a hand up is a great book example, and it's swoony even in text. Yes. Oh, I do have, if you stick around a little at the end of the session, I'm going to run one more Persuasion clip, because I did not have time to get good insights, so I just have silly ones. So you don't have to stick around, but I enjoyed making this, playing around with how music affects the tone of a scene.
I like that point about Frank Churchill coming in too, and George is it George Wickham? Wickham. It makes me think of one of the major themes of all Jane Austen novels, I think, is just people and things not being what they seem, what they appear to be. You know, Darcy seems, rough-edged and unlikable at the beginning, and turns out to be the hero, and, Wickham seems to be the opposite, and I feel like you could look at almost every book, and I mean, that whole theme, that's like almost the biggest theme of Northanger Abbey, is she doesn't see the world as it seems, and Emma too.
Okay. Oh no, I've scrolled too far. Okay, let's see. Catching back up. Yes, Mr. Knightley is such a hero and a gentleman. There it is. Mary Bennett did cough into her hands. I hope she washed them afterwards.
Especially, is she the one? I keep getting them confused. Is she the one that played the piano?
Yes, and she's
Especially
playing the
before she plays
piano.
the piano.
If they give other girls a chance, it'll be their last. So, when is my next live stream, and what will the subject matter be? We will probably have one next weekend, and TBA, I'm going to make some videos that aren't live streams that are talking about some Austen memes. I've made a lot throughout the years on the internet, and I would like to turn them into a video. So that will be happening, but there will also be a live stream coming up, and I will be sure to share that. So if you subscribe to the channel, you get noticed. You can follow us on Twitter at Scribe and Scrib, 2 B's. My favorite adaptation... There's so many good ones. Do you have a favorite adaptation?
Well, like I said, I'm kind of a lot newer to this world, and forgive me if some of my thoughts are things you guys thought of a long time ago, because it's still new to me. I like these stories a lot. I think Jane Austen is a brilliant writer, and my favorite thing about Jane Austen in general is the study of character, both of who are the characters, what makes them tick, and also the idea of character or nobility. It always is in contrast to, versus wealth, versus station, what is their actual nobility and things like that. So I love that about Jane Austen. But adaptation-wise, I've seen only a handful. We just watched, or I just got to see for the first time, the Northanger Abbey with what years? Yeah.
Oh, the
Felicity Jones. I really liked that one a lot. I really like this brand new Emma. It's hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Pride and Prejudice 2005 just because it's my favorite. Probably it depends on the day, but I could watch that every day and not be tired of it, and I get to watch it and live stream it. Well, I won't be live streaming it, but I'll be watching along tomorrow on that one. So I believe it's on Twitter. My information is not up to date on where that will be, but Jane Austen Virtual Fest watching Pride and Prejudice will be a lot of fun.
Well, and honestly, one of my top favorites is probably the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, because I watched that with my sister, who's 12 years younger than me, and we really connected over it. And I already liked YouTube vlogging in general, and just sort of stumbled onto it. And then I was like, oh, this is really clever. So that I found that really enjoyable. In a way, that was one of my entrances into one of the ways that I got into the world of Jane Austen.
I really love Emma Approved. Redemption!
And I'm watching that for the first time now.
Yeah, so now we're watching that. I'm like, if you liked Emma, we're going to watch this now. Let's see. Yes, Stephen, it is easier if you tag us in the question because then it's bright orange and I can see it quickly. Okay, we answered Patty Collins' question. Jean, we are currently located in Kentucky, but we do travel to California multiple times a year, so please reach out to me. We've got an email address on our channel that you can send us an email and we can make that happen.
It's 4 o'clock. Are we
It is 4 o'clock.
I think the next thing is starting at 4, so we don't want to take away from that.
Let's see.
We can keep answering questions.
I cannot remember. We have Hulu, Amazon Prime, and Netflix. I don't think Netflix has anything streaming right now, Jane Austen, but the other two do have some of them. We own the 1980s Northanger and the Kate Beckinsale Emma, so I did not have to look for those. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you guys tuning in and having well thought out questions. I'm going to keep streaming, but please go catch up on the other one. You can watch this later. I will answer your questions that are in the chat, but I don't want you to miss out on what's happening now with everyone else. So thank you so much. I'm going to keep talking, but you don't have to keep listening.
Yeah, and thanks for bearing with our technical difficulties, maybe with my maybe naive thoughts on some of the stories.
It's good to have your perspective because you ask questions that are sincere.
Well, thanks. But yeah, and we appreciate the kind comments we're seeing in here too, and just the laughing with us about some of the silly things, and the great characters and the great moments and the the hand flexes and whatnot.
Yes, that's exactly what this whole event is supposed to be about, to connect us and help us not feel so lonely. This has brought joy to my heart and our kitchen. So let's see, what do you think of the well-discussed controversy between 1995 Pride and Prejudice enthusiast and the 2005 enthusiast? I have a friend who won't even watch 2005. I love them both. Watch them all. Just clear your whole schedule and just watch the whole thing and then the next one and then start the miniseries over again and you just have a great life. Watch both of them. Let's see. I will always love, Amy Evans says, I will always love the 2009 Emma miniseries, though there are many other good adaptations I like. That it gives the story more time and emphasizes the parallels between Emma, Jane, and Frank. Yes! That was in my notes, and we had to cut it for time. I love, it's a very Pushing Daisies feel for me, the TV show with the narration in some of the 2009 Emma miniseries, but I love that they set up the parallels. It's like, here are 3 players, and we're sending them out to the world, and what happens when they return to Highbury? But Emma didn't get to go out in the world, and how that affects all of them.
That might be my favorite adaptation is that Emma, because I think the actors and the characters are so good, and it's just so well done, and I do like, it's long, but I like that we get more in depth with it too. So
yeah, definitely.
And I think the romance is especially potent in that one. One of our little bit disappointments with the new Emma is that it feels like it steps on the romance just a little bit because it ups the drama a little bit more, and that's a little bit more. I'm not going to get into details because it's spoilery, but we will make a video on that, and don't watch it if you haven't seen the movie. Okay, I'll say that again when we get to it. And also, if your opinion was that ending was fantastic, that's fine. That's just my opinion. It's like I think I really got
have a different opinion than him.
I got really spoiled by that.
Yes.
The 4-hour Emma.
It's because
the romance at the end.
The
is 2020
just so perfect, 2020 Emma has a different point in their perspective, which we will talk about in a future video. Okay, Hannah Neville says, Joe Wright said he put in close-ups of Darcy's hands as a reference to it being the end goal for these women, the hand in marriage. I like that.
Oh, okay.
That's
a great point.
What do you think of Emma's continual eye rolling in the Romola Garai version? Drives me crazy. I love eye rolling, but it is a little copious. There's a lot in the new one too. It's just Emma is an eye roller. But perhaps maybe not that much. Okay, yes. Yes, we have another comment from Marnie about the Joe Wright hand. Yes, okay, so I love the use of windows and framing in Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility. I think that had a huge influence on adaptation since, showing women in confined spaces, roles, and choices. Yes. Yes. Okay, what did you think of Love and Friendship, Lady Susan? We did answer that a little bit.
We love it.
I was able to talk on Twitter recently a little bit with the director because he saw that I was live tweeting it and sent some of my tweets to
the actor who
yes,
plays
James.
Yes,
Sir James Martin. Perhaps Emma was concerned that Sir James Martin and Harriet's Mr. Martin were relatives, and that's why she really disapproved of him because that guy's not all there. But yeah. Mr. Martin would totally know what peas are, so you gotta respect your farmers.
But yeah, we certainly enjoyed Love and Friendship. We saw it in theaters, and we also watched it recently when it came on streaming of some sort. I think it's very well done. Have you read Lady Susan? I'm not familiar with the original unfinished work.
I have it sitting over there, so I've not gotten to that pile yet.
Yes, she has a lot of books from the library and other places. So.
It's a serious problem. All right, I have missed one. Let's see. Okay, yes. Bridget says, one other thing that interests me is the recycling of actors. The woman who plays Mrs. Allen played the main character in Mansfield Park. I didn't realize that. Yes, it's like they find any man who's willing to be in a Jane Austen adaptation, and they're like, that man's a Jane Austen man, get him for the next one. They also recycle wardrobe, like their costuming, and that's fascinating to me. There's some really good blogs on that. I will try to put some links in the doobly-doo, I'm not sure what to call it, below the video, so I will update that with some links to whatever we've talked about. Let's see. What do I think of Lost in Austin? I was horribly disappointed by Lost in Austin, but I did not see the full version. I saw an edited version, so I'm willing to give it another shot. But it's under my list under all of the books I have piled up, so it's probably not going to happen soon. But maybe if someone has a convincing argument, please share it, and I will give it another shot soon. Yes, Kate Beckinsale has been Emma and Lady Susan.
I like that comment about, I think it's Gail. She says that Keira Knightley, Pride and Prejudice, does something only film can do. When Darcy and Lizzie dance, they are the only people in the room. I think that's a good point. You can they like to do that in film, right? They drop away every background element. Sometimes literally you're in space and in blackness, either as a couple or as one person for different effects. Sometimes that's romantic, sometimes that's horror.
Sometimes it's humor, like in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And that is, that's kind of what I thought of when you were saying that. Yes, but only film can do certain things, and only books can do certain things, and that's why that's why we have such strong opinions, not we, but we have such strong opinions about our adaptations, because there are things that the book tells that the movies can't, and there are things that movies add that are good or bad or just different.
I'm seeing other people agree that they love character studies.
Yes. Okay, we've got some more content on some relations in actors and actresses and roles across. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yes, Carey Mulligan is in. She's Kitty Bennett in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, and she is Isabella in Northanger Abbey. Okay, says Lost in Austin is awesome. Cool. Well, I'll have to look into that. Let's see. Yes, I agree that the 2005 Pride and Prejudice is a filmmaker's one. That's why it was the first one they showed me to try to trap me, and it worked very well.
Seeing lots of love for Lizzie Bennet Diaries.
Yes. It's super important.
Emma Approved is so good. I'm seeing too. So far, I like it a lot. I think we're
Yay.
like 11 episodes in.
That's
for
great, Barry.
my
I'm
first
excited
watch.
to excited that Pemberley Digital will be talked about because, yes. Okay, Canadian Netflix has Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. Mansfield Park is on Netflix. You were right. That's where we watched it.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Okay, Netflix has the Gwyneth Paltrow Emma. Oh, it's back. Good.
Oh, good.
We have that one too, so I hadn't looked for it in a while. Okay. Lieberhawk says, one of my favorite things about Northanger is how Tilney is the trustworthy and Reeves is more feminine. He understands muslin. While Thorpe is untrustworthy, deceitful, and exhibits more masculine. Yes. Yeah. Tilney cares about people. I love his speech in the book about how men and women are both bad at writing or good at writing, depending on who the person is, with grammar. But yeah, I really love Henry Tilney, and I have learned to appreciate John Thorpe a little bit, but we'll have to talk about that later too. But mostly he's horribly obnoxious.
Yes, he's not a good person. Maybe an interesting character or a good character.
No, I knew they would ask about Pride and Prejudice and zombies.
Oh yes.
I have not seen the film. I have read the book. I felt that it would have been the idea is hilarious, and it would have been a better. It would have been better if they'd hired someone who cared about Jane Austen instead of someone who cared about being funny, because the idea was initially the editor's idea, and he commissioned a particular writer to do it, and so that particular writer brought his particular take on it. I would, again, not do that, but I will try to grow in that in 2020. But I am interested in seeing the movie, so I'm a little bit of a chicken when it comes to zombies. So it's a very pretty looking film, and I'm afraid of the zombies.
Yeah, we're not really horror fans so much, so I don't know how much it leans into the horror, although it seems like it was. So. Yeah,
I just have to really hype myself up to get into something like that, even if I know it's going to be fun or silly or just interesting. I did feel like...
One of the things we're hoping to do is a bit of a parody.
Oh,
we
yes.
Want to...
yes, that'll go with our meme video, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Do some mashups. So.
Yes. So, yes, it's... I love the old BBC version. It isn't for everyone, but personally it's my favorite version because it's so accurate to the book. Yes.
For which book?
Persuasion.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes.
We'll tell them how much you love Persuasion.
I love Persuasion, and I've been really struggling with this a lot, and Rational Creatures series has been doing a good job, but they're only in their second season trying to adapt Persuasion, a modern web series. I just think it's very hard to tell that story and get all the details in it, because Anne is so private, and we don't want them to just be like, and Anne thought this next, or Anne talks to herself in the mirror. There are a lot of cheesy ways to handle it, and I'm always glad when adaptations don't handle it that way, but it's difficult. I think that's also why there's not a lot of Mansfield Park adaptations. It's just hard to get all that nuance into it, and so the 99 Mansfield Park that we watched recently, that is on Netflix, it had to change certain things in it, and then the director, she also decided to change certain things in it, and so it's just it's interesting to see how they take it, but I want I want to be able to watch Persuasion happening. Maybe we can do a VR video. So someone make that. Virtual reality, I just follow Anne Elliot around as she falls in love again.
But Persuasion does have that problem, though, right? Of it's a lot of inner world, right? So it's like,
She has such an deep inner world, and like, but there are good ways to translate that to film because other films do that. So it's just it's got to be taken into careful hands. Let's see. Subtlety is good, but sometimes I want more. Yes, Megan, for Emma. They're both good. Subtlety is good, and expression is good, and it depends on what you're going for. Okay, so Lady Susan was not unfinished, but was published long after her death. Okay.
Okay, that was my question to you, and I figured you probably knew, but...
Yes. So thoughts on Austenland. I read the book. I enjoyed it. I haven't seen the movie or series, but I'm intrigued in it. It's got Tilney in it. Let's see. I also really disliked Lost in Austen. I thought it betrayed a profound misunderstanding of the story and the characters and didn't show Austen fans in a very flattering light. Austenland was much more fun. I actually preferred the movie to the book. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Good to know.
Both are great, but the humor is just so great in the film. Cool. Do you like any of the Bollywood adaptations? I loved Sense and Sensibility one, in which Marianne falls into a manhole during a monsoon. Really captured her despair. I have not seen that one. I've only seen Bride and Prejudice, which I did like. It was really good. Oh man, I've got to see that.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
Yes, Liz says Bride and Prejudice is fun. Yes. Steven says, do you have a Patreon? Can you set up YouTube Super Chat that allows people to make donations in the chat directly through YouTube? I don't know if our Patreon's active. We can reactivate it. Right now I have Ko-fi. Coffee is set up
on the YouTube channel.
On our channel, the little coffee cup blue icon next to our Twitter accounts. We also have a Redbubble store where I make some Jane Austen related art and some other things, and we're going to be making some more art to go up there,
and that's
linked all sorts of stuff. Twitter. That is linked on my Twitter, but it's also linked on our account. So I've put up a couple of Emma things because I was very inspired after watching all of the Emmas. But I'll be making more, and if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see merchandise-wise, we can also kind of commission that, because it's if you guys like it, I like it probably. And he's a good sport in drawing what I need. I think the P&P and Zombies book was more graphic than the movie. Okay. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
So Patty Collins said that. She also said that I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ciaran Hinds Persuasion. We have that one. We have, actually, no, we don't have that one. We have the other one. So we're going to have to track that one down. I have seen it, but Christopher has never seen it.
Hinds Persuasion adaptation. So that's,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looking at Hinds. Hinds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Kate Brown says, I'm not good with horror, but I really liked the Zombies film. Matt Smith is the most charismatic Mr. Collins ever. Yes, and he seems to be the youngest. Which I was really excited about, because part of the humor of Mr. Collins is not something they've been playing into in adaptations, is how young he is. He's just a stuffy old man in a young man's body. But if they don't want to play for that visual humor, they don't have to, because I think the castings for Mr. Collins is always that perfect, like, oh, this guy feeling for any of them.
That was something we almost talked about in adaptations, is that some of the casting woes can be a little bit difficult, because
maybe we'll make a video on that.
Sometimes they just aren't accurately cast, you know?
And sometimes it's like, it doesn't matter, and sometimes it feels like, that's what I thought she looked like, but sometimes it's like, that's not even close. You didn't try, you just picked somebody.
Right, and it's, I think there's a war for film adaptations or visual adaptations, series and things as well, between good acting and how perfectly accurate are they for the part. So,
okay, let's see. Chassimim says, Ostentatious is an interesting, unique modernization on Amazon Prime. Cool. If it's on Amazon Prime, I've added it to our list, but it's a little hard to look through the list. I don't know if you guys use Amazon Prime regularly, but I struggle finding with what I've saved. Let's see. Christopher Nagel says that Zombies is very dark and not very good, in my opinion. The plot doesn't even hold together, but I love their take on the first rejected proposal. Such a funny and clever scene. Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is not supposed to be good. It's supposed to be fun. So it's sad when the good gets in the way of the fun, meaning it's not good. But I don't know. I haven't seen the film, so.
The quality.
Yes. When it's not good and it's not fun, then why did you even spend money on it?
Mary Hill says, OMG, see Austinland. It is so beautiful and fantastic.
Great. Carrie Anderson said, virtual reality Austin in general, I feel would be so good. Yeah, we'll get our friend who makes zombie games to get in on that.
VR zombie games, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe they could start.
Yeah, so if you like horror,
PNZ.
we know a guy. Yes. The earlier Mansfield Park is at least better than the Billy Piper version. Yes, I need to track down the earlier one. I wasn't sure how I felt about the Billy Piper one. The Bollywood SNS is called... I have found it, and it's wonderful. Cool. Yep, we'll be looking for that since I love Sense and Sensibility.
It's difficult to pronounce.
Kieran Hines.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
good.
that Persuasion, brilliant. Great.
We have a lot of stuff to look into.
Yes. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on the difficulties in adapting both Mansfield Park and Persuasion. Great. Well, I think I would be kind of making it up right now. So we'll make a video on it after I've seen these two adaptations that I've missed of Mansfield Park and Persuasion.
Yeah, we're definitely interested. Persuasion is the first one I've read of Jane Austen, and I think it's your favorite book, you said.
Yeah,
of the Jane Austen.
It depends, because any one I've read, I'm like, this one is my favorite now. Like, whenever I go back to read one, I'm like, yes, this one is my favorite. So I have 7 favorite Jane Austen novels, plus her other works. Okay. Ostentatious is also free on Tubi. It is incomplete. I personally wasn't a fan because it just felt disjointed, like they stuck a bunch of random things from the Austen books into a series. Okay, yes, I do remember hearing about it now that I'm... Yes. It's... Maybe one time I'll also talk about television series, because it's so hard to be able to make what you want and make all of it. So, alright, I've promised you guys a video, and
hopefully it has sound.
This is, yeah, it should have sound, but if it doesn't, then it won't be funny, so...
But it's on your Twitter.
Yes, it is on my Twitter, so find me at Harmonica Cave on Twitter, and he is Scribble Addict. And we also have our Twitter account for this channel that will be more active on moving forward, now that we've launched this off with you guys. That is Scribe and Scrib, 2 B's. Thank you guys. So glad the sound worked. So glad you guys could come out.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Yes.
We loved doing this.
Please be our friends.
See you next time.